So recently, one of her students' younger sister, Sana, she actually reached out to us. Now she's been working in this company for a year and a half, and she's at a salary of 2.5 lakhs, and her role is primarily in accounts. Now she is super fed up and basically wants to move up in her career, but she still wants to remain in the domain of finance or accounts. That being said, for some reason, she was very basically averse. She did not want to invest time into studying something that we already are aware about and the market is already offering. So, chart accounting, ACCA, CPA, CFA, she was not really keen on doing. Yet, she wanted to stay in finance and accounts and she wanted to move up. So, after hearing her, we spoke to the team internally and we reached out to a lot of the companies that we're already associated with. And we spoke to some of these guys and realized that they were actually open to hiring her, but they wanted her to be upskilled in a few extra modules, as we would call it, right? In a few extra aspects. So we came back, we sort of trained her on those few things. We also trained her extensively on interview preparation. And we realized that is when actually the breakthrough moment came for us. We realized that in India, there is a need for companies as well as students where they want to work in the domain of finance and accounts. Companies want to hire people and they don't necessarily need to be CAs or ACCs like I was saying. They just need to be experts in certain topics. And that's when we realized that the gap between the industry and students is not necessarily only certifications like the ones we're aware about. So that's when we decided to come up with a bridge course, with something which we call the certification in finance and accounts, where we train candidates on everything from basics all the way up to getting them ready for literally all the interviews. So assume that somebody's at 0, right? By 0, we assume no knowledge on behalf of the student. And I'd say 10 is required to get them a job and start their career in this domain. We decided to create this curriculum, create this program where we get somebody from 0 all the way to 9.5, which basically means that we train people and put them in the interview seat. And the last 0.5 points basically is on the student where they apply what they learn and basically crack the interview and start their career. This is what we are defining as the certification in finance and accounts. And talking about Sana, she actually went through this and she did get a job in one of the companies that we spoke to. We were actually quite excited to get somebody who's not a qualified person but an expert, and her salary package went from 2.5 to 5 lakhs after doing this course. So guys, first of all, if this is the first time you're visiting the channel, then please do click subscribe. If you find value in this video, give us a thumbs up, and now let's jump into it. In this video, I'm going to talk about this new program that we've come up with. It's primarily for everybody who's watching this who wants to start a career in the field of finance and accounts, or you're in the field but you basically want to jump. In this video, I'm going to cover what the course is about, the academic aspect. Then the most important thing, how is it that companies are hiring and how is that we are preparing you to get placed? And then finally, we're going to talk about the roadmap. Is this the right course for you or not? First, let me cover the academic structure. So quickly, what is it that you're going to learn in this? This program is going to be 6 months in which we cover, first of all, everything that you need to know to get into the real world with finance and accounts. We cover the basics of accounting, the basics of finance, we cover cost accounting, we cover companies tax, we cover taxation, we cover GST, we cover accounting softwares, we cover whatever is going to get you industry ready. Now, how do we know this is going to work or not? In the last few months, after we realized the Sana story is actually something that everyone requires, we spoke to so many companies, ran the curriculum by not only the head of these companies, partners of large companies and HR heads who actually hire these guys at different profiles. And we ran the modules by them, the curriculums by them, and we got clarity from multiple companies that, okay, if we design the curriculum in a particular way and we have people who are trained within that curriculum, those are the best people ready to actually start working almost as soon as the program is done. Over and above that, we covered an extensive module on actually interview training. We get you ready, not only, like I said in the beginning, we put you in front of the interview chair, but we also prepare you to really crack it. Sometimes people have real good strength when it comes to technicalities, right? They understand accounting, they understand finance, but they're not able to really crack through the interviews. So we ensure that we try to solve for that as well. And once again, we got clarity from the HR heads of these companies saying that, yes, this is how people should really be in the interviews. And if they do that along with the technical skills, that's what these guys are looking for. They told us that somebody with 0 years of experience will be hired at this level. Somebody with 1 to 2 years will be hired at this level. And like I said, I'm going to cover this bit for you at the roadmap level. But more or less, as long as you study this, you can become an expert in anything that any company needs for the basics of finance and accounts, and you find a niche to basically grow in that. Second, let me talk about the kind of companies and the scope that this really entails. So when we realized this, right, we just understood that there is entire world of companies. Every single company needs somebody who has expertise in finance and accounts. So right from the large multinationals, right, as always, the big four we all love, right, KPMG, Deloitte, PwC, EY, big six, which add Grant Thornton, BDO, and then the other, all our huge banks, the JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, the Indian banks, HDFC, Kotak, the finance firms, right, Motilal Oswal, Anand Rathi. We have had word with so many of these companies, and majority of them are actually quite keen on finding people who are not specialized with a particular certification, but are open to saying that yes, their knowledge base is strong enough, and then we can build them into whatever we want. By the way, I'm having these conversations with companies now daily, and they're actually reaching out to us specifically for things like non-CAs, which they mean for these kind of profiles at the entry level. So for majority of our audience who is deciding what to study, but for whatever reason you've decided that you want to go a different route, this just might be the option for you, because you learn the basics, you learn how to crack the interview, and you can start your career in less than 6 months. So we spoke to all these companies, and they're ready to hire these kind of candidates in various profiles, from auditing, which is statutory, internal audit, taxation, financial reporting, consulting, advisory, for all of this. Because in almost every one of these fields, you need to be an expert in the basics of either finance or accounts. And if you combine those two and you add Indian context of law and tax, everything that is covered in this curriculum, you are more or less ready to handle anything that these companies want. Secondly, these companies are ready to hire people between 0 to 3 years of experience. So, like I said, what I'm going to cover, if you fall within this range, either you're a fresher, you're just about to graduate, you are probably not too sure of what to study, but you want to work in this domain, this is the option for you. And companies are willing to hire people depending on their experience, depending on how the interview goes. And of course, if you cover this curriculum, anywhere from 3 lakhs all the way up to 8 lakhs. And if you somehow are one of those anomalies, somebody who can really break through, they're willing to pay more than 8 as well. And now for the roadmap. Is this the right course for you? Or more importantly, who is this course made for? So number one, as long as you are a graduate, right, you have 0 years of experience, but you want a launch pad in the domain of finance and accounts. Yesterday I was having a conversation with one of the big four, and they were telling me that yeah, generally all the things you want the candidates to be ready in, it is actually covered in BCom, but people don't really study it. That is why they need this upskilling opportunity. So if you're a graduate, 0 years of experience, wanting to start your career here, this is the right course for you, where in less than 6 months, you will once again not only brush up what you've learned, you build on what the industry needs, and you'll be ready for the interview. Second, you've always wanted to work in this field of finance or accounts. So you had initially decided, maybe I'll do CA, maybe I'll do ACCA, maybe I'll do CFA, but you either landed up not doing it, or we've seen a huge chunk of people who land up dropping up, right? Some people drop out at the IPCC level, some people drop out at the final C level, some people drop out at ACCA, CFA levels, so you've tried something and dropped out, not completed it, but you still want to work in this field. So the second one is for people who aspire to be a professionally qualified accountant or finance expert, but did not land up doing it. This one's for you. Third, now here is a different opportunity that some of these companies have put in our ear. They said that sometimes there are people who are right now working in something totally different, right? But they want to enter the field of finance and accounts. So from the F&A perspective, they have 0 years of experience, but they do have experience in some other industry. For them as well, so for anybody who's trying to make their sort of segue into the finance and accounting department, this course is for you guys. And fourth is Sana's profile. Now, if you remember, Sana is somebody who was already a graduate and working in accounting for a year, but she was stuck and she wanted to basically move up. Anybody who has any experience in the F&A domain, but feels that they want to make a jump in their career, then this program, this course, becomes a bridge from where you are to where you want to be. And not only is it because you want to jump, but the industry is also asking for people who can become experts in the basics of finance and accounting. And this course is what gets you there. And now, the most interesting aspect, the guaranteed interviews. Now, remember I told you that we'll take you from 0 to 9.5, where 9.5 means we will put you in front of the interviewers on the interview seat, and all you have to do, that last 0.5 marks is where you basically have to apply what you learned and crack it. How do we do this? Right? Beyond studying, we've come up with a 3-step process to make sure that you guys are basically thoroughly prepared. Step 1 is what we call profile building. Profile building means we will, of course, take you through how to create your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and any and everything that we know individual companies are actually seeking before they choose your profile. So that's step 1. Step 2 is the interview etiquettes. I cannot, it's heartbreaking, but before this, a lot of our students, we would actually get, I remember in the month of June or July, we had over 1,000 vacancies from companies asking for our students, right? And so many CVs we had sent got rejected only because of this point. People are not aware about how to really represent themselves in interviews, and in spite of having probably the knowledge, they still end up losing the opportunity. So interview etiquette is something that we need to work on, and that's what this course will also cover for you guys. Step number 3, and this is what we call a unique value proposition from us, right? So there is something called mock interviews, which we all know, right? You practice how to do it in front of somebody who can guide you well. No problem. That is obvious. We're going to do that. But we've taken the step beyond. We went out in the industry and the companies we're associated with, we've taken some of their HR members and we are going to have our students do mock interviews with people who are eventually going to be hiring them. And if you can crack how to really, have these mock interviews with real HR people from the market, it's not going to be really a mock then. It's basically like an exam which you're giving, which is more like guaranteed to pass you because you've sort of seen the question paper beforehand. If that really can happen, so when that happens, that's when you really have the value of knowledge, interview preparation. And when you are out on that interview seat, you're going to have zero nervousness, and the ability to crack the interview is a 10 on 10. So guys, if any of you all are looking for a switch into the domain of finance or accounts, or you're already working in finance and accounts, but you want to bump in your career, you want to basically jump in your career and don't want to do it in a slow, organic fashion, this course, this bridge is the perfect opportunity for you. Reach out to us. Of course, we'll give you all the details. We'll help you out with everything that you require before you get into the journey. But come on with us so you can actually start your career in the field of finance and accounts.